TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations. Shalom and good evening. This is TV7 Israel News broadcasting to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories, U.S. Vice President Mike Pence and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo hold talks with Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan in Ankara as part of Washington's declared efforts to try to mediate an agreement that will end hostilities in northern Syria. Russia says it will push for agreements between Syria and Turkey after its successful efforts between Damascus and the Kurdish-led forces have yielded results. Tens of thousands of Jewish worshippers gathered at Jerusalem's western wall of the Temple Mount to attend a special priestly blessing prayer during the holiday of Sukkot, Hebrew for the Feast of Tabernacles. U.S. Vice President Mike Pence and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo held talks with Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and Foreign Minister Mevlut Çavuşoğlu in Ankara today as part of Washington's declared efforts to try to mediate a deal between Turkey and the Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces with the aim of immediately ending hostilities in northern Syria. Prior to the meeting in Turkey, U.S. President Donald Trump voiced hope that the meeting will bear fruit.
We have two countries that are going to argue over their border. Hopefully they'll work it out. We're going to try and work it out. I think our vice president, who's a very capable man, will do well. President Erdogan said he wouldn't meet with anybody, and he took that back just a little while ago, and he said, no, I will. And I think they'll have a successful meeting. If they don't, the sanctions and tariffs and other things that we will do and are doing to Turkey will be devastating to Turkey's economy.
Speaking alongside visiting Italian President Sergio Mattarella, Trump referred to Russia's deployment in Kurdish-controlled areas as a good thing. That said, the American leader underscored that the war between Syria and Turkey does not concern the United States.
But frankly, if Russia is going to help in protecting the Kurds, that's a good thing, not a bad thing, but it would be led by Syria. And Syria doesn't want Turkey to take its land. I can understand that. But what does that have to do with the United States of America if they're fighting over Syria's land? Are we supposed to fight a NATO member in order that Syria, who is not our friend, keeps their land? I don't think so.
Despite his administration's recent decision to withdraw U.S. forces from northern Syria, the American leader did not grant Ankara a so-called green light to launch a military operation. In a letter the U.S. president sent to his Turkish counterpart on the 9th of October, Trump urged Erdogan to pursue a peaceful solution to the Turkish-Kurdish animosity. The American leader further cautioned his Turkish counterpart in the letter not to be a tough guy, as the United States is ready to destroy the Turkish economy if the latter does not comply. It is important to know that while the United States withdrew from northern Syria, U.S. Representative Michael McCaul, following a meeting with President Donald Trump at the White House, revealed that he received assurances from the U.S. Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mark Milley, that a residual American force will remain in Syria to preserve U.S. interests.
And General Milley is the one who made the recommendation to start moving our troops away from harm's way, but most importantly, to have a residual force in Syria to protect the homeland. I was given that assurance today that we are not withdrawing completely from Syria. We will have a residual force of special operators to, first and foremost, protect the homeland.
President Trump's strongly worded letter and repeated threats of sanctions did not affect President Erdogan's resolve to complete the goals of his country's military operation. In an address to Turkey's ruling AK party, Erdogan underscored that the military offensive, dubbed by Ankara Peace Spring, will last until all of its objectives are met.
Barış Pınarı Harekatı, Münbiş'ten Irak sınırına kadar olan hattın tamamında daha önceden ilan ettiğimiz 30-35 kilometrelik derinliğe ulaşana kadar sürecektir. Bu konuda hiçbir istisnamız, hiçbir tereddüdümüz, hiçbir açık kapımız yoktur.
The Turkish leader further underscored that the only viable proposal to end hostilities promptly would be for all terrorists to be removed from his envisioned safe zone in Syria of up to 35 kilometers, which is equal to almost 22 miles.
Suriye'deki sorunun en kestirme yolu, bunun için de teklifimiz hemen bu gece tüm teröristler silahlarını malzemelerini, her şeylerini bırakıp kurdukları tuzakları imha edip belirlediğimiz güvenli bölgeden dışarı çıksınlar.
Following his address, President Erdogan told reporters that Ankara is not concerned about entering the Syrian city of Manbij after Russian and Syrian government forces entered the area. The Turkish leader insisted that so long as the Kurdish organizations are cleared from the area, his country does not mind the presence of the Syrian and Russian forces, a position he plans to discuss with Russian President Vladimir Putin later this month. Furthermore, President Erdogan questioned the legitimacy of reports regarding a deal struck between the Kurds and the Assad regime.
Şimdi değerli arkadaşlar, ben rejimin SDG ile herhangi bir anlaşması olduğuna ihtimal vermek istemiyorum. Zira burayla ilgili bizim Rusya ile daha önce bir anlaşmamız var. Zaten Sayın Putin'le bir araya geldiğimizde o haritaları, bunların Türkçesi, Rusçası hepsi var. Kendilerinin önüne sereceğiz. Kaldı ki bizim zaten yani özellikle Münbiş'te olmak diye bir derdimiz yok. Bizim tek derdimiz var. O da şudur. Ama Rusya ama rejim. Buradan terör örgütü YPG'yi, PYD'yi buradan çıkarmalarıdır.
Meanwhile, in the Russian resort city of Sochi, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov emphasized that Ankara and Damascus should work out on how to cooperate in northern Syria on the basis of the Adana Accord, which is a security pact between the two countries that was formulated in 1998. The Russian top diplomat further stressed that Moscow is prepared to help facilitate joint Syrian-Turkish cooperation. With regard to the deal between Damascus and the Kurds, Minister Lavrov asserted that the Russian brokered agreement was yielding concrete results.
Россия будет и далее, действуя строго в русле международного права и резолюции Совета Безопасности ООН, поощрять достижение и реализацию договоренностей между Дамаском и курдами, а также способствовать налаживанию взаимодействия между властями Сирии и Турции по обеспечению безопасности на их совместной границе, как это предусмотрено Аданским соглашением 1998 года.
Despite the Russian call for a coordination mechanism between Ankara and Damascus, the Syrian army is deploying additional troops to the country's war-stricken north. A Kurdish TV network published a video purporting to show Syrian troops gathered around buses on a strategic road that connects the cities of Manbij and Kobani. According to a low-ranking field commander, their deployment aims to counter the Turkish offensive.
المهم تبعنا انه نحمي ارضنا بالدرجه الاولى يعني من المحتل التركي. هلا حاليا بعين العرب بهي المنطقه جايين نحن لحتى نوقف مع الاهالي الموجودين هون والشعب الموجودين هون ونحمي النساء ونحمي الاطفال والرجال والكل من هالمجرمين هدول الاتراك اللي ما عندهم انسانيه ما عندهم اخلاق ما عندهم شيء.
Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is scheduled to make a stop in Israel for talks on the latest developments in Syria. The U.S. State Department announced late last night that the top American diplomat will meet with incumbent Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to discuss developments in Syria and the continued need to counter the Iranian regime's destabilizing behavior in the region. The Prime Minister's office in Jerusalem did not immediately respond to TV7's request for comment. Now to Jerusalem's Old City, where tens of thousands of Jewish worshippers gathered at the western wall of the Temple Mount to attend a special priestly blessing prayer during the holiday of Sukkot, Hebrew for the Feast of Tabernacles. Holding prayer shawls over their heads and covering their faces, the priests, known as Kohanim in Hebrew, began chanting the blessing, which begins with, "May the Lord bless you and keep you." Rabbi Avraham Levi, who arrived in Jerusalem to attend the priestly blessing, said that in ancient times the blessing used to take place in the biblical temple. Since it was destroyed and until its future reconstruction, Jewish worshippers are forced to perform the blessing in alternative locations.
It used to be done in the temple, in the Beit HaMikdash, the first one, second one. Since then, we have it like in small, shuls. But here today we have like the feeling of the real thing that we used to have in the Beit HaMikdash, soon to come.
Thank you for watching us, praying for the salvation of Israel and the peace of Jerusalem. I'm Jonathan Hassan. Have a Erev Tov, and we will see you again tomorrow at the same time.